the article did this thing that I've seen so much when the healthcare bill was talked about, in general, when like proposed cuts to government programs are talked about. This is talked about, so I've seen this in discussion of like Medicaid and Medicare, and like also like cuts to health subsidies. What other programs have I seen this? Oh, like when there's proposals about, cutting Meals on Wheels or cutting, NIH funding or whatever. I see these defenses of them. And the defense basically consists of pointing out cases where the proposed program helps people. So basically, like in this New York Times article, the implied defense of Medicaid was like, they would tell you about a specific person. They'd be like, look at this person. This person has this condition. And without this condition, they would not be covered for this like certain drug, which lets them, work and go to work every day. And there's like in this article, there's like several specific cases where they show the person's picture and they say, without Medicaid, this person wouldn't have this. And this approach is taken like with Meals on Wheels, where it's like, without Meals on Wheels, and they show a picture of like an old person, like this person, no one would bring them food, and they would be lonely and stuff. And it's like, the implication, what drives me nuts about this, is the implication here is like the people wanting to cut these programs like either don't know that they help people or don't care about them helping people. That's the implication. Like, well, if you actually did know that the program did these things and helped these people, then you'd never want to cut it. So if you want to cut it, that's because you either don't know it helps these people or you don't care about these people. And that's just false. It's utterly false, and it's just bad reasoning. And here's why it's bad reasoning, because, which I'm sure a lot of you just know right as I bring it up. When people want to cut a government program, so for example, when Republicans say we want less government spending on healthcare or like Medicaid specifically, or we want to cut Meals on Wheels, it's not because like they hate sick people or they hate old people or don't care about them. The point is that there's a cost to government spending on programs, and there's a cost to government spending in general. There's a negative effect of government spending. There's potential negative effects, plural. The negative effects could be it slows down the economy because government spending requires taxation. Maybe if you raise taxes, people work less, the economy slows down. Also, you might argue that government spending, mandating certain money gets spent on a certain thing, that might not be the most efficient way of spending that money in terms of benefit versus cost. So there's that whole thing as well. There's plenty of arguments to be made that more government spending is not the best thing for the country overall. And somebody might argue, for example, look, instead of spending a lot of money, what the government should do is just not spend a lot of money and not spend as much money and tax people less, and then the economy gets better, and ultimately we get even more revenue, and that'll be better for everyone, including the people who Medicaid helps, and including the people who Meals on Wheels helps. The idea is if the economy is better, that helps everybody. Then there's more money to pay for programs, and and it's just more for everyone. And so the basic point here is it's perfectly consistent for Republicans or whoever to say, I want to cut government spending or I want to cut these government programs, and yet still really care and want the best for and sympathize with sick people, old people, or anyone else who's benefited by government programs. Because what these people might say is, look, ultimately, the best way to help the Americans who are being supported by these government programs is to cut the government programs. And that might sound odd, but the idea would be, if we cut the programs, we can maybe make the economy much better, or maybe there's different ways of providing these services that these programs provide that are more efficient and produce more benefits for less cost. So there's all these different arguments that could be made for cutting government programs, where the people making those arguments still ultimately want to benefit the people who the programs benefit. So just saying, look, you shouldn't cut Medicaid because it helps this person, and it helps this person, and it helps this person. The people who want to cut it, they're not denying that. They're not denying that Medicaid helps these people. What they're claiming is it'll be better for everyone, including these people, if the government doesn't spend so much money on these programs. So it drives me bonkers when I see arguments against cutting these things. This happens so much. I mean, I look at the news media, and also I have like tons of friends of mine who are a lean liberal, and like I see their posts on Facebook, and so many of the arguments about is it really even, well, I guess it's an argument, but so many of the arguments in the posts which are directed at which are like anti-making Medicaid cuts, or anti-making health care cuts, or anti-making any cuts, are like, but it helps this person. How can you want to hurt this person? And it's as if like the people proposing the cuts like don't care about those people and don't want to help them. And it's just, anyways. So it's just, when you make that kind of argument, when you say, don't make these cuts because it helps these people. See these people, it's helping them. I'm going to show you how it helps them. When you make these cuts, if you argue that making these cuts is bad because it helps these people, you're not even listening to the argument from the people who want to make the cuts. You're not even listening to their argument, because their argument is making the cuts will be better for everyone, including the people who get helped by these programs. Okay.